Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all of the praises and the glory to the Most High and His Son, Yahweh Bashemel Shah Bashem Rakah HaKodash. And double honors to the apostles of the great millstone that taught me this truth through the Spirit of the Heavenly Father and Yahweh Bashemel Shah Brakatham to 140 and 4,000 and including the 1/3 that do follow. And it's your brother Laban. And I want to get into this news over here. I spoke about this before some time ago. And, Trump is pretty much reinvigorating what's in mind, that if he comes into office, he's not going to be siding with the EU anymore. So there's not going to be any North Atlantic Treaty Organization. And of course, I'm speaking about this because this is prophecy and tout. All right. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. So this reads, Trump says NATO countries spent billions after he threatened to not defend the EU. The former president, Donald Trump, said NATO countries spent billions and billions of dollars on their defenses after he threatened to not protect Europe if it were attacked. Speaking at a New Hampshire rally Friday night, Trump blasted European countries for relying too heavily on Washington when it comes to defense spending. And after meeting with NATO leaders during his presidency, Trump said he realized the U.S. was footing the bill. Yeah, because back in 2019, he gave, word to Jens Stoltenberg, and he was pretty much explaining that some of the countries within the EU, were making, moves of betrayal by, paying for energy billions of dollars from Russia. All right. And, that's what you call betrayal at best, because here it is. We're supposed to stick together. Yet you got a particular country here and there is doing their own thing, acting roguely. So his thing is, man, when I come back in the office, if that is the case, NATO is on their own. The EU is on their own. All right. So let me continue on to read some more of this. So it reads, when he raised that concern, a European leader asked him, does that mean if we're not paid up, you're not going to protect us? Trump said. I said, that's exactly what it means. And he said, and the following day, billions and billions of dollars came pouring in. And that's really what they should have been doing ages ago. Of course, because another thing, too, they was expecting Washington to actually pour in more money into the defense. They would do it. So you got that issue as well. So anyway, that's all I'm pretty much going to read from there, because it goes into other places, as these articles do, and because of that, because Trump made it very clear once again that he's not going to deal with the EU anymore. Now, you have this former prime minister named Gordon Brown, which I remember when I came back to the UK in 2008. He was about to come in, if I'm correct. He was about to come in after Tony Blair at the time. I think maybe Tony Blair was still in office. I'm not really sure, but I remember he was next. He was next in line after Tony Blair. I remember that. So yeah, the former UK Prime Minister Gordon Brown says he's worried about the threat of a Trump presidency. And that's pretty much all it has to say. So what I'll do is I'll play the video and he's going to explain why it's a threat, which I've already kind of told you why that's the case. But he's going to explain it from his point of view, because obviously, he's an insider. And, these prime ministers and presidents, they don't just leave their position because, they fulfill their tenure and now all of a sudden they go back to being regular folks in the world. No, they stay in certain places behind the world of politics. Hell, look at David Cameron. David Cameron was MIA for since I think, if I'm correct, since 2016, man, when you had the referendum that took place. And in that same time, if I'm correct, this woman, which was in, office down here in the UK, Theresa May, came in there. Okay, around that time, if I'm correct, if my memory serves me correctly on that, right? So, but all of a sudden, so now David Cameron, he pops back on the scene, and now he's back in that same place, which he was probably already there anyway. Which, the media just declares certain things, but just because the media hasn't declared something, it doesn't necessarily mean it's not going on. Like, he's probably been in the back rooms and 10 down the street anyway. But the media just decided to bring it out because obviously, you got people that live around that area and they may see David Cameron pop in and out. So they got to make it clear, this is just me speculating. They got to make it very clear that he's back on the scene now, because then it's going to look weird if no one says anything. If none of the mainstream media outlets don't say anything about that. So anyway, without me talking, let's play this video so he can explain why it's a threat that Trump is going to withdraw the U.S. from the EU.
If Trump is re-elected as president, are you worried for democracy?
I think I'm worried about the threat of a Trump presidency in the sense that in 2016, he was not prepared for the presidency. Perhaps he didn't expect it, but he certainly wasn't prepared. Now there is this whole body of policy that is being thrust upon him by a series of institutes in America. And of course, you can look at the domestic policy about what he wants to do about immigrants, what he wants to do about people who are poor, and you can worry about that, about what is happening internally to America. But I have never wanted to interfere in domestic politics of another country. But what we have got to think about, and I'm afraid we've got to speak about is the threat to the rest of the world. Now, he says he could solve the Ukraine-Russian problem in a day. But if the Ukraine-Russian problem is solved at the expense of Ukraine and is seen as a victory for Putin, then the blow to European self-confidence will be absolutely massive.
And that's the issue. That's the problem. Because if Russia makes any other moves other than America not being around to protect them, then they're by themselves. Now Russia has the upper hand of power over there, which they've already had the upper hand of, which Russia already got the upper hand anyway, because Ukraine has been done since 2000 and since they've even announced it. Okay. And that war in Ukraine has been going back ever since the Obama administration, and even when Cameron was in office. So that wasn't even a new thing. They made out it was a new thing back in 2019, right around the time when COVID was about to jump off. All right. But as far as it goes now, Ukraine is nothing right now. Ukraine has been destroyed. The military has been weakened. There's nothing to the military. There's nothing there at all. But, obviously what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some more research on as to why, they're there in the first place. Okay, I'm going to have to go back. Maybe I've forgotten a couple of things as to why they're there. But I'm going to have to go back and, recap my train of thought as to why they're there in the first place. And I'm talking about the EU in this case. All right. And, again, let's just say if Trump gets in office, Trump is deciding to leave the EU by themselves. So what is that going to do for Russia? That's going to give Russia more of the upper hand on a political scale. Okay. And them smaller nations are going to have to probably side with Russia, as they've been doing anyway. They've been buying resources, especially Germany, as of what was being said by Trump, that Germany have been spending billions of dollars on oil, and there's other countries that are doing the same thing as well in regards to that. They're going to different countries which are not an allied with them, and they're spending a lot of money on that right there. So this is the issue that Trump has been meditating on for the past 5 years, because obviously, of course, if America is helping out their allies and then their allies do backdoor deals towards the enemy, then Trump definitely had the right to say what he had to say on that as to why he's not gonna and I'm talking about now, Salakia. And that's why Donald Trump feels as though he has the right to say that he's not going to defend the EU anymore because of what they did 5 years ago. All right, that's really what it all boils down to anyway. But either and or, prophecy is playing out, and that's the ultimate thing. Why I'm speaking about this, because prophecy is what's speaking in these last days, and what's going to make the changes of the world. So let's even read this now. This is on Mark 3 and verse 24. And if a kingdom be divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. And if a house be divided against itself, that house cannot stand. The power of the West in general cannot withstand itself, right? You have what is known as the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, which was formulated back during the time when, you had the Soviet Union was on the rising, and they the Western powers, they received that as a threat, so they all joined together and packed with one another and got together and formulated that unionship. Okay, I think it was in if I'm correct, 1949, man. Right around when Joseph Stalin was about to be out of there, 4 years in advance. So yeah, and now we see that that's breaking apart. And I also want to read the book of Obadiah 1 and verse 7, speaking on that. Anyway, all the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. And the men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee. And they that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee, and there is none understanding in him. Exactly. So the nations that were in confederacy with America, or the EU in this case, are going to betray them, because they've already showed that they could betray America. And they, like I said, they've already showed betrayal to America and what they were doing, what Trump was speaking about against what's the guy's name, man? The head of the EU, Jens Stoltenberg. He gave him some words. All right, he was explaining why he was angry with certain nations within the EU. All right, so they've showed betrayal. Again, now we don't know what's going to happen in totality. We just have to wait and see how this thing's going to play out, because the election day, which will be on November the 5th of this year, if I'm correct, which is like 9.5 months away and some change. We may not even get to that point, because the way things are moving right now, there's a lot of news, there's a lot of stuff going on, and things are happening so fast towards the end that we may not even see the election day. So we'll have to just wait and see how far 2024 is going to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and we're going to get into Obadiah again. Let me read this again. Yeah, so Obadiah 1 and verse 7, all the men of thy confederacy, right? And I want to look up that word confederacy real quick. And this reads, which is Barayath, or Bara'ath, Salakia, Bara'ath. Let me see if I'm correct. Yeah, I'm correct. Barayath. That's really how you say it, Barayath. So yeah, this reads, covenant, alliance, pledge between men, treaty, alliance, league, man to man, constitution, ordinance, monarch to subjects, agreement, pledge. Yeah, so that's pretty much what it means. It just means allegement or covenant. So that's what they did back in 49. They came together and formulated the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. So that whole entire setup is going to be what? Broken apart eventually. Because it's going to get down to this. Just like I've read in the book of Mark 3 and 25, right? Where it reads, and I'll read it again. And if Satan rise up against himself and be divided, he cannot stand but have an end. And this is going to be the end. Revelation 17 and verse 16. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore. The whore is America. And shall make her desolate, and naked shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. And the 10 toes is referring, the 10, moving a bit quick in the mind. The 10 horns represents the 10 major European nations, which is a part of the EU. Or in this case, which is up with NATO, which is what this is talking about. All right. And pretty much the allies of America, which is the EU, are going to rise up against America and destroy her, burn her with fire. What are they going to burn her with fire with? Intercontinental ballistic missiles, and they're going to be nuclear missiles. That's what's going to eat America alive, as it reads. And shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. For the Most High put it in their hearts to fulfill his will, and to agree and to give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of the Most High shall be fulfilled. And this is why this world is still standing, because the words of the Most High have to come into effect first, as it is written that the Lord is a power, not that he neither repent of his words. And as well as it reads in the book of Isaiah 55 verse 11, so shall his word be that goeth forth out of his mouth, and it shall not return unto him void, and it shall accomplish that which he pleases, or which I please. Let me read it. Anyway, instead of quoting it, Isaiah 55 and verse 11. So this reads, so shall my word be that goeth forth out of my mouth, and it shall not return unto me void, but it shall accomplish that which I please, and it shall prosper in the thing whereto I sent it. So that's the prophecies. The prophecies are going to be spoken of by the word of by the mouth of the prophets, and then those words are going to be put into practice. And it's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time. As time does. Time always does all of the telling. All right. So in due time, this society is going to see its end. And we're pretty much in the ending of this world right now. But I'm talking about the world is going to physically see the workings of the Heavenly Father putting this place to an end. Especially for us, the brothers that are in the truth. Better is the end of a thing than the beginning of it. And in this case, this society as a whole. So with that, I want to close. I want to give all of the praises and the glory to the Most High and His Son, Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua Ba'Shem Rakah HaKwadash. Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua Brakatham, as well to the elect, which is the 140 and 4,000, and including the 1/3 in that as well. And this is your brother Laban. Shalom.